Welcome to the Sri Lankan Understanding, a platform on which we explore the past of Sri Lanka, an island in the Indian Ocean. We look to where it is at the moment and we look at the potential and opportunity in the years and decades ahead. Our topic for discussion today is non-governmental organizations and their scope in Sri Lanka. I've invited as my guest Thirukumar Premakumar, who is the founding president of IYAP, the International Youth Alliance for Peace. Thank you very much, Thiru, for giving us of your time on the Sri Lankan Understanding. If we first go straight into something that could be considered rather sensitive when it comes to non-governmental organizations. They've been around for quite some time in Sri Lanka, but for some reason or other, there is sometimes a negative perception, connotation that comes about when you mention the term NGOs. Why is this?
Okay, first let me say thank you for inviting me, George. Nice to have be here. On your question, NGOs, the non-governmental organization sector, which is the development sector, is quite traditional. We have been here for a long time, quite some time now. Even before tsunami, before the war, there has been part and role of NGOs in Sri Lanka, as I know. I have been here more than about almost 10 years here, so I'm quite young to the sector also. That is what we are also doing here and we're trying to talk here about. When you ask me what the negative connotations are, in my perception where I come from with my experience here, I've seen that it's not the NGOs alone, not the sector alone or the organizations that we are working in. Here we, from the south to the north, we have been working, the NGOs, we have a few hundreds of NGOs working, marvelous amount of work here. But it's also the people, how they perceive what the media, the local media here gives out about NGOs on different platforms. For example, when you take something, an incident in Sri Lanka, the first word on a lot of platform comes is NGOs on a negative form. So that is being again and again fed into the people's mind, the grassroots level, the ground level people. And that has been here for some time here, where people think when you hear NGOs, they are anti-government, against the government, against the rule of law, and they have different entities supporting them to create chaos. Where I see we are here to support the government in the form of very infrastructure or social aspect or development. So I think it's also media plays a role as an intermediary and how people perceive us. It's been very traditionally known that NGOs don't reveal much of their work here very openly. We like to keep it a small sector, and we are a small sector compared to the other sectors. So I think in the next few years you will see a little bit change, since we have new NGOs in the forum,
Coming into
young NGOs like us, and I think that will create a bit of a change and a different image is being portrayed, a very positive image.
Talking about that image, up to date, what have non-governmental organizations done to address this issue? If there are accusations, if there are challenges, how have they been able to overcome that?
NGOs have been, as I told you before, it has been a very traditional form of working. We have a lot of work being done in the same traditional way. Now it's changing, and in the media perspective, after the pandemic, especially after the pandemic, I have seen that NGOs have taken on their own media, own forms of media, own ways of voicing out, own mediums where they can show what they are doing and also bring what their concerns are to the government and to the people. So things are changing, and the perceptions are also changing. They are using their own mediums, social media as an example, and also their own media platforms, whereas YouTube, whereas TikTok, A lot of NGOs you would have seen now are on TikTok also. So it's trend, where they want to show and give out the social message on the latest new platforms available to reach out to young people also. It's nice to see that even the traditional old NGOs I see that are coming into the fold and giving the right message together as one sector.
So there's a lot that is being done already in terms of addressing that.
Yes, it is on policy level and in the people in the village level also. A lot of forums are being created for voices to come out. A lot of opportunities, young people are being given the opportunities, and a lot of trust in the NGOs have come to fold, because in case of emergencies, in case of disasters, it has always been that NGOs have been at the forefront. NGOs have been there for people, and that's the voice, that's the image they have always seen. So even now, after the pandemic, we see that a lot of NGOs have gone into COVID prevention and COVID work here. So that, I think, a lot of things are changing, but slow, but it is changing.
So the pandemic has actually created fresh opportunities.
Yes.
It's actually opened things up, which is a wonderful thing.
Yes.
On one side of it, I mean, the pandemic has a negative side of it, but it has actually boosted the non-governmental organizations in a certain way to reach out to more communities.
It has given them the platform. Yes, exactly. It has given them the opportunity to reach out to more young people on a wider scope.
And I guess using social media there helps a lot.
Yes, definitely. And not only depending on the same old forms of media, they create their own platforms also. So this gives them a chance to reach out to a wider scope of people and a target audience to get their message across and influence more people also.
Fabulous. When we come back, we're going to be focusing on development, whether it be infrastructure, whether it be social progress, and how non-governmental organizations can contribute towards that progress. When we come back on our next segment of the Sri Lankan Understanding. Welcome back to the Sri Lankan Understanding. We're in conversation with Thirukumar Premakumar, and we're talking about non-governmental organizations and their scope in Sri Lanka. Thiru, before we went to the break, you talked about why there's a negative connotation and how it is being addressed. And a lot has been done and is being done at this very moment, and how the pandemic also created fresh opportunities. Now, when we look at development, and we sometimes connect development only with infrastructure, but there's also the aspect of social progress, social cohesion. How do you get society to develop? It's not just something to do with buildings and construction, but when you look at that, all of those areas, it's very costly. Now, non-governmental organizations have the ability to attract funding for such purposes. How effectively is that happening in Sri Lanka?
In that aspect, George, I have not a vast years of experience on talking about this, but with my experience, in my personal opinion, I don't know how much we can say that we have the ability, but we have the scope and we have the opportunity. So what the NGOs do is, maybe the people also think in a way that NGOs are being funded throughout, or money is being just given. There are some perceptions that NGOs just get money. That is not the thing. We have a process, we have transparency, we have call for applications. There would have seen online the call for applications, call for proposals, where we have to compete with the others also, and we have to come up with a fresh new idea and theme and progress and sustainability. There's a lot of things. It's just not that you start an NGO and money comes pouring in. You have your own branding, and you said the social progress you are making also needs to be seen to sustain the organization. There's a lot of things that goes into it. And what we here as NGOs, I see, as young organizations which recently started after the end of the war and even during the pandemic, health-based NGOs also, are showing that what is needed in the country. There is a problem, there is a need, and that need needs to be addressed by the international community and is asked for aid help. So in that case, with these NGOs in the country and the needs being shown out, talked about it on public and international forums is where the money comes in. But what I see here is the sector is still a very small sector. We have a lot of potential with a lot of challenges, legal and international challenges. With the whole pandemic, we are still, there is a lot of process that we have to follow. A lot can be done, but I think we are not in the highest, where it could be better. There is a lot of struggle. A lot of NGOs have to close down or shut down its operations for a particular time or period due to lack of funding. So that could be addressed, and that is being addressed with the challenges in the sector by prominent people or experienced people in the sector. But we as youth NGOs, young NGOs, I think a couple of us, I would say, are striving to take our message online and create that platform online, so that with this whole lockdowns and stuff, we still keep the message going on. We still engage young people. We still give them a voice, and also in terms of the ground level, we give voice on the national platform for them to take the message to an international forum. So that's what I.
You founded your own institution in 2013. Now, I'm sure you mentioned just now that some people might think that when it comes to NGOs, oh, funding just comes naturally, just flows naturally. That's not the case. There's obviously a lot of, we could use the term bureaucracy or red tape that is associated even in attracting that funding into the country. What are some of the main challenges you faced personally in establishing this organization?
Okay, thank you for the question, George. I started this organization, International Youth Alliance for Peace, for 8 years ago, 2013. I come from a very simple background from Jaffna. I'm a farmer's son. So I didn't have the connection here. What motivated me to start this organization in the first place is for young people like me to lead and be in the decision making process. That was the sector I decided, okay, NGO sector or the development sector would be a chance where I can share my experience, how I am doing this, and give more voice to the young people. The first challenge, I would say, is that recognition. What is the background? What is the experience? What are we trying to do? A lot of questions coming, a lot of challenges. People support you when you get the right message. For me, a lot of entities, global entities, have supported me in this journey. A lot of people have supported me in this journey and kept me going. So I would first appreciate that people and young people need to believe in young people. When somebody has an idea, you need to believe in that. So for me, my idea, people believed in the idea. People believed in the idea that youth need not be just targets, but also in the decision making level, where we can decide what is best for our future, rather than using future, youth are the future. Youth are now, we are here. So let's talk about what is now and what can be done. Second is the legal framework. We need experience. We need support from the government. So we need support from the private sector. We need support from the community to trust us and acknowledge our work. And with acknowledgement comes more responsibility. That was one of my biggest challenges. We were more of a volunteer-led organization. So when it comes to volunteers, people have this image. Okay, how can we trust them? How is the liability? Where is the sustainability? Can they be more responsible? Are volunteers more responsible? That was an image which I had to face, and I have to challenge myself as well as the people around me, that we have to show that we are progressing. We are here to be heard. Our voice needs to be heard. Thirdly, and the last, I would say that progress is slow. We can't immediately make a change. A change doesn't happen in a day. Progress comes with time, patience, and also determination. So that determination is very important for young people. For determination, as I told you, the community needs to believe in us. Community needs to believe and groom people from the community itself, rather than looking at people from Colombo to come in and give something. We are here trying to get young people from the communities to lead their own communities and come up with their issues. So these are the three challenges where the trust, the determination, the support, and also the legal frameworks that we have. So we go in as an NGO. There is no youth NGOs, or this youth are looked as just the beneficiaries. So that was one of my challenge to take it from beneficiaries to decision makers and to run the show.
And you've done a very good job of it.
Thank you.
When we come back in our next segment, we're going to look at non-governmental organizations and international connectivity and where we are going in the years ahead. When we return on the next segment of the Sri Lankan Understanding. Welcome back to the Sri Lankan Understanding. We're in conversation on the topic of non-governmental organizations and their scope in Sri Lanka. Thiru, when we look ahead, when you look at international engagement, NGOs obviously have a very critical role to play, given that they receive funding, support, assistance from the international community. Now, at that point, how effectively is this happening in Sri Lanka in terms of promoting international engagement for Sri Lanka with the wider world?
Okay, that I could say it can be better. As all for everything I can say, it can be better, but we are there. With the pandemic, we have not been able to do as much as I think the sector wanted to. But when you come into international engagement, George, I would say to an extent we are currently now, apart from the government, we are the only other entity that is engaging with the international community in a way that to bring in money, to bring in resources, to bring in support. Whereas the image we were talking about is negative, we are trying to make it positive also. It's not always only the negative here. Engagement wise, we have different platforms in this nation of ours. We have local, which is the government led, like the United Nations ambassador, youth ambassador positions. From there to international forums where we send our young people, the young people are given opportunity to talk on international forums as well, which is not given enough of attention locally here, with some level of more importance given to sports, but where we represent, young people are represented in various forums. As I know, the Glasgow Climate Change Forum, also there were a couple of young people from our country where I didn't see much of this thing. So we are talking there, our voice is there, our voice is being heard there. The NGOs are engaging, and during the pandemic also, after the lockdowns also, we have been continuously engaging the need for aid, need for support, need to trust in the process, need for young people's voice, as well as work in the grassroots level. We can't stop work. Our country needs support, our people need support, our community needs more voices. So that has been continuously engaged from in the level of NGOs, and NGOs now I feel like we have become the real intermediary between the government and the international community and the people also. So we take the message from the grassroots level, the ground, to the government and the community as well, just not the government alone. And we are trying here to get the message across, saying that we are here to support the government's progress. It takes time, it takes a lot of negotiations, and NGO diplomacy, I should call it, helps a lot. People need to recognize that NGOs are here for good, and most of the NGOs that I am talking about are founded or started local NGOs, not the international ones I am talking about. Even the international ones, I would say, are working here in the trust and in support with the local NGOs. Most of us would not be talking about the local CBOs, community based organizations, or we call it the civil society organizations working in this. They do marvelous amount of work. the perceptions, the feelings, the messages, anything that you see in the ground level, somewhere deep inside you will see there is a intervention and support of a local NGO here. That is the level of engagement in the local level to international forum we are trying to bring here, whereas we are not being recognized or we are not being really portrayed as such. But I think it doesn't matter for most of us as social workers, as volunteers, because we will continue to do our work, and I think that is going on. You know, there is no stopping here. We have started a journey, and this journey is going on.
You made that very valid point there. Non-governmental organizations become intermediaries between the state and the international community. As we go ahead, Thiru, how do you see the future unfolding when we look at the role of NGOs, especially when it comes to social progress?
It should be still in a very more effective manner, engaging with the government and the people, and also we need to, the media or the private sector needs to understand. People, most probably the grassroots people, need to get the right message. The role of NGOs must be understood from the ground level, from below. What are we doing here? Why are we here? So, if the people can understand that, I think there will be a more better acceptance, and with acceptance comes, you know, more better work and reach. But I would say what we can do better is more engagement and continuously getting our message across on different platforms. We can go online, we can go offline also with the precautions, with the health precautions. But the engagement needs to get across what is the role of the NGOs here? What are we doing? What is being done for the country and the development, and what is our role in the development process? So, the government also should take a hand in, you know, appreciating and engaging with the development sector. Not a few, but overall from the grassroots level and this thing. I know there's a lot of marvelous work being done which we in Colombo would not know. That needs to be coming out. Those people need to be heard. What are the changes that we are making in? What progress that the government and the international community can get involved in? What is the need of the people? NGOs here are trying, always we have been trying to see how we can mitigate the risk and issues of the people here, not the government. The government, we are trying to support the government also. So, in this journey it has to be the community, the people, and the international community also.
So many stakeholders coming together there, and that's where there is huge potential, as you said, as an intermediary in terms of attracting the funding, making the progress, because these are costly areas, and this is support that is readily available, can be utilized, and can be taken forward. Thank you very much, Thiru, for sharing those views with us, because you really enlightened. You not only gave us understanding as to why this negative connotation has to change, and it's high time it changed now, because we sometimes don't know the real stories. We haven't heard about what is happening. Certain things are highlighted, but some of the good that is being done does not make it to the headlines, and that is something that we need to take note of. So we've been in conversation with Thirukumar Premakumar, President and founder of IYAP, the International Youth Alliance for Peace. We've been looking at non-governmental organizations and their scope in Sri Lanka. Join us again next time when we explore another topic, when we look at the potential for Sri Lanka, where we are right now and where we can go in the years ahead.